Hello, friends and brothers. This is Justin Jones with Masonic Improvement, joined with Brother Dennis Yates. How are you doing, Dennis?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. We get to talk Kabbalah because it's my birthday. You see, I'm
Nice.
excited. Today's a good day. My favorite topics, one of my favorite brothers sitting here with me, and all of our favorite people listening. I think it should be a very good conversation because not only is it Kabbalah, but it's also with regards to the Fellowcraft degree and other different things that we discuss in Masonry that most people do not know where the dots are connected, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Kabbalah is the mystic school of Judaism. And when you're talking about Kabbalah, what is the very first thing that you think about when you think about Kabbalah?
The tree of life.
The tree of life. Exactly. If you look at this is the tree of life, and you look at the top three spheres right there,
Mhm.
and that's considered the essence of God that you will never get to understand here on earth. And the second level below that, now you got to do away with that dot back in the middle because that's not actually part of Kabbalah. That's an end result of knowledge that comes from the understanding of Kabbalah. So it's not a true Sephiroth.
Which one? That
The,
one?
yes, that one, that one. So now we're going to skip that for now. We'll get to that in a little while. So the three that's underneath that, the next triad is like the manifestation world. So let's think of yourself. So Keter, that's the light from God. That's like a solid beam of white light coming down and shooting through Kabbalah, right? So once you get to Keter, once you get to the top three, you're actually one with God. Right underneath that is that understanding that I was talking about. The knowledge of all things Kabbalah is dot that's in the middle. And that's actually where we get to before we cross over into death and into becoming one with God. Now, if you're looking at it from the top down, you're looking at a manifestation of creation from the top down. So if the top is God, it works its way from being all light to being a manifested thought. And then the next three are going to be like a manifested reality. And then the very bottom, Malkut, that's us here in the present. That's the physical world. So you're going from the infinite at the very top down to the finite, which is down where we are right here. The top is going to be the macrocosm. The bottom is going to be the microcosm. As above, so below. The manifestation of all being solves everything. Everything that is in existence all comes top down, right?
Mhm.
Now we know how top down management goes. It usually doesn't work out too well. Not just kidding. But really that's kind of, how it is. So basically you're going from a oneness with God to where there really is no understanding of existence in that point. You're just with God, right? So you don't even know that you're with God. You're so with God. So then go right below that, and that's when you kind of understand that you're getting close to God, and then below that, the further away you are from God. But you're still with God. That's what the Kabbalah represents. You're still with God, but it's a matter of things coming into existence, coming from nothingness to everythingness, if that makes sense. It's
So
the everything. It's the everythingology, man.
where on the tree is outside of God?
Well, now here's something that I don't really like the way that they describe this. So in this white light, there nothing can actually be within this white light. So God has to step aside, and then the particles contract. Then the non-existence contracts and creates existence. That's kind of how they interpret that. That with God being all present so intensely that creation wasn't really possible with that one white light. That he actually had to step aside and allow creation to happen by getting himself out of the way, or getting itself out of the way. It allowed creation to happen.
That makes no sense.
Okay, so when we're talking about that white light, the infinite light, right? That's Ein Sof. That's the infinite light. And then, so in essence, God stems from that white light.
Well, just where I was going with this is God to theoretically step aside. That would have to imply there is something outside of God for God to step aside to, which
right,
is
right,
not possible.
Exactly, and that's why I don't agree with it. Right, I don't really agree with that theory. However, this is one theory of creation. Right, that's the way that most Jewish rabbis think in regards to creation, that the Ein Sof is this white light that's just so broad and powerful that nothing could happen except this. It's almost like a laser beam, that it's so intense that nothing could live within that space. So it had to like dim itself to allow creation to happen, if that makes sense.
I understand the fiction. That makes sense. Like,
well, there's always a story, right? It's all about allegory, right?
Yeah. There's always an attempt at some kind of rationale. I understand.
Right.
You can
So,
rationale
and
anything.
right. So, where does this tie into Masonry? First, let's go into the three pillars. If you look at the tree of life, the spheres, which are called the Sephiroth, on the right hand side, that's the pillar of wisdom. The pillar on the left hand side is your pillar of strength, which is also, if you think about it, it's Jachin and Boaz from our lodge. And then the one in the middle is beauty, right? Because that's balance. The beauty comes from the balance in the world. In looking at the tree, so since I've already opened up this can of worms, the circles, the spheres there are the Sephiroth. The pathways in the middle are considered mystical pathways, and each one of them are represented with a letter of the Jewish alphabet. And each one of those letters is also assigned a number. It starts with a G. The gematria. Gematria.
Gematria. The numbers
so
associated with words, with letters.
Yes. So those are the numbers that are associated with the words when it comes to those are the numbers that are associated with the letters when it comes to the Jewish alphabet. And then when you line up those different letters, you add those numbers up and they create a certain holy number or something like that. And then you can see different characteristics of different words that they say are holier together than, because they both equal the same amount of numbers, whatever. They both add up to the same. So that's part of one of the things that Jewish brothers and Jewish scholars, they look at when they're looking at different words in the Bible or in the Torah and whatnot, because they're looking for the relevance of the numbers as well. It's not just about the letters themselves, which is kind of interesting. Kabbalah, it comes from the letters Q, B, and L in a row, which seems like Kabbalah, because the letter system, the alphabet for Judaism, it does not have vowels. And so you kind of have to ad lib your vowels in anything. That's why when you talk about the name of God, people say Yahweh or Jehovah or whatever, because they're putting in vowels to go with the consonants that are there, that have been written down. So I want I want to step back for just a second. Think about if you saw all these spheres kind of in a spiral and connected to each other at the same time, as if it was like let's say if you cut a tree and you look at the tree on the inside and you see all the rings for all the years that tree has been alive. Let's say that in the rings represent Kabbalah, right? So that white light that is so strong and so powerful, let's say in this other example, that white light shoots through the bark straight to the center of this tree, this Kabbalistic tree, right? So you have this little wedge that's cut out, or this little strip that's cut out of this wedge, of this round circle, right? Now, the way that the Jewish people see that, and what we're trying to do on this earth, our whole reason for existence is the white light, or God, that penetrates and busts up Kabbalah right there and creates these particles of energy. That those particles, that's what actually creates everything, right? That's what's created this existence. It's the that's where your souls come from. It's where people come from. It's where the angels come from. It's where everything in existence, everything in the story comes from those particles falling apart.
Is that emanation, or am I thinking of something else?
I think that is.
Okay.
So well, no, that's not emanation.
Okay. It seemed like I'd heard that in association with Kabbalah. Maybe it was something I read, but
maybe
I don't remember where that fit in.
Right. Well, emanation is the very top three of the tree of life. That it's called Absolute, or I don't know how to say the words. I should probably learn how to say the words before I talk about it. But that's in my terms, you're right. It's emanation. That's the bright light of God. But what happened is, let's say that light shoots through to the core of Kabbalah, and it creates these fragments of everything energy that created all of life, created this finite existence. And our job in life is basically to piece together all those particles and figure out how they fit back together to put it back into that spherical piece of wood that was busted apart. So let's think of our journey in life as like if we were glue and we were creating a particle board of wood to put back in that wedge to complete the puzzle of Kabbalah, right? That's our job, is to figure out where everything fits together, how it all fits together.
Interesting.
So now we'll go back, because I like that interpretation, because it's different than the tree of life. The tree of life is I love it. It's in your face, but it really doesn't help with the understanding of why it zigzags back and forth like a serpent. So if you think of it as all of it being spherical, kind of like this, kind of like a tornado going down, and with all spheres touching and all paths touching, but going down into a circle, and that beam of light shooting down into the middle of it, and then breaking apart particles, then it kind of helps to understand that just a little bit better. If you were to look at it like if you shaved a piece of it and then looked at it in a microscope, that's what you would see, is it would have that little wedge in there, and then you would have to piece it all together to put it back together.
Interesting.
kind of like DNA. So if you had a string of DNA and you were trying to piece it back together to form this animal that was in existence years ago, that you lost a couple of the millions of pieces of DNA that make up that animal, then trying to put in little pieces to make that animal whole again. That's kind of the way it would look.
Let's now go back to full screen. I was gonna show this real quick, so I'll put it back. But so you were talking about the pillars, right?
Right.
Boaz and Jachin, and here we have the
Yes.
high priestess with the. You can't tell because of just how small it is, but she's holding the Torah. So
Right.
it all.
Well,
and I know you said you
it,
could link it with tarot if you wanted.
okay, now put it back up. Put it back up. Now, if you notice, the Torah is also underneath that the veil right there.
The
Part
veil.
of it, it's only partially shown.
Oh yeah.
That means that the Torah is not the entire truth. The Torah is basically just the rules of how to get there.
Mhm.
It's the rules on how to do the good deeds that are basically going to get us to oneness with God.
Well,
That's what the Torah is.
Speaking of Torah, so you have the Wheel of Fortune, and you got the words, the letters Taro. So if you go clockwise, you have
right.
two, but if you go counterclockwise, you have Tora, Torah.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize this. So just like the tree of life, you can apply a bunch of different schools of a bunch of different mystery schools to the tree of life and create connection within the pieces, just like you can with Kabbalah. And that's why it's such a great tool for understanding different schools of thought. But the tarot was actually designed specifically to interpret Kabbalah. Specifically.
Isn't that weird how the thing is, like when we talked about this in a recent episode, how different fields of esoterica coincide. That's because there's truth to these things, and truth always validates itself, if that makes sense. So you'll look at something esoteric, and then you'll study something else esoteric, and you realize, hey, there are relationships here. These things coincide. There's parallels. Well, there's a reason for that. There's nothing coincidental in existence.
Right.
There's this thing as coincidence.
Right. Well, and what's interesting, and this is something that I'm writing about in this paper, which will go into the book, is that all of the mystery schools, the ancient mystery schools, were all trying to interpret the journey to God, to oneness with God, right? It wasn't until we started putting the priestly management in place that our faith became a hierarchy that was meant to control the people.
It used to be meant to enlighten the people.
Yes. Well, and as a matter of fact, for years they didn't allow it was Greek translated into Latin so that the people couldn't understand it. In fact, the first person to write the Bible in English was burned at the stake. In fact, he was I can't remember his name for the life of me. I'm not good with names. That's why, guys, I'm not a ritualist, because I don't remember words. I'm more of this guy that tries to help put things together in on the back end of it. But anyways, this priest, he translated it from Latin back from Latin to English so that the population could read it. And he was burned at the stake, but because people had a lot of respect for him, they actually choked him on the stake before he burned alive so that he would be put out of his misery. Interesting how he would be choked and
Miles
unable
Coverdale.
and unable to speak. Yes, Miles Coverdale. Yes, so he was the first one. He was the first one. So go ahead.
I'm not sure that I'm ready to say this yet. Let's see. 1536 was when he died. And just look up one more thing real quick.
Go right ahead. If you
Yeah,
can
it's so
correct me, please
15.
do.
No. I'm not trying to correct you. It's
No,
just
I'm messing.
so he died in 1536. And then just a little over 100 years later, we'd be entering the Enlightenment period. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
just weird how there's no, and where I was going to go with this is that this is part of the reason that all the Masons that met during the Enlightenment period. This is why Freemasonry had that veil of secrecy, because
Well,
100 years
and
before, not even 100 years
yes,
really, people were getting
yes.
killed for printing things.
Well, it was way back to the 11th and 12th century, if you want to get down to it. I mean, it was all through the Dark Ages.
Mhm.
I mean, that's why the Templar were considered a threat, because they were enlightened. And why were they enlightened? Because they went to the Holy Land and they figured this stuff out. They weren't supposed to understand Kabbalah, but guess who did understand it? The people that were in that land.
Well, classical religions had mystery schools associated with them. It was
Yes,
part of it, right? And the Templars, I mean, sure they're Catholic, but they went to the Holy Land and they picked up these um these initiatic practices themselves. Probably
right.
heavily influenced from mystery schools, either what they experienced when they went there or what they discovered when they researched what they found. But I mean, what we're talking about here, the Kabbalah, that is a mystery school.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
it
mean,
absolutely was. In
Judaism is a
fact,
very old religion.
yeah, in fact, in its own religion, you weren't allowed to learn about Kabbalah until you were 40 years old, married, had children. You had to be an established person. You basically had to be um, you had to be well founded enough in life that it just wouldn't completely rock your world. That was why you had to meet all these different, in my opinion, that's why you had to meet all these different rules. Well, plus they just like rules. I don't know why they like rules. But you had to know all this stuff, but you had to have experienced all this life before you could understand the meaning of life. And it makes sense. If I had really delved into this when I was 20 years old, I would sound as stupid as half the people on the internet right now that
Mhm.
talk about it, because they really don't understand what they're talking about. And to some degree, you can take bits and pieces of this stuff and and piece something together. I mean, look at us. Look at what I'm doing here. Yeah, it's not like I'm a rocket scientist. I'm not that smart, but I was able to piece this stuff together. But I didn't understand this until recently. It didn't really click until recently, even though I had all the tools in front of me for the past umpteen years. It finally just freaking clicked, and it really hadn't clicked to the point to where I can explain it as easily as some of our other scholars within Freemason.
Well, it's kind of a big, we discussed this when Brother Reyna came on our show. We were talking a little bit about Kabbalah. And that's a big hurdle for me and probably for a lot of people, is that it's so, I mean, it is Judaism, right? It is the skeleton of the Jewish belief system. It's what everything comes from. But if you don't, and you talked about like the Hebrew letters and things, if you don't understand, I mean, I don't know if you saw the picture with the words on it. If you don't understand Hebrew, and not just Hebrew, but aspects of the culture, it's really
Right.
it can be difficult, right? Especially if you pick up a book that just assumes you know these things, which is a lot
Right.
of them.
Right. So now that we've kind of connected the dots between Masonry and Kabbalah a little bit, because ultimately Freemasonry is the journey of the temple, of rebuilding the temple, right? And in essence, that's what Kabbalah really is. It's the well, number one, when you take the meaning from the dictionary, it's it's basically a spoken interpretation, right? It's it's almost like it as if it was mouth to ear or something like that. But you know, but Kabbalah means to interpret. So, which is kind of, we can go into another little tidbit here that I would like to talk about with the Bible in general. You hear about all these prophets and all this in the Bible. Prophets were not prophetic as in fortune tellers in the Bible. Prophets were interpreters. Prophets were able to read. Look at Daniel. His whole his whole claim to fame was that he could understand and interpret dreams. That's what made him prophetic, right? Mm-hmm. And so now they try to romance it in these books of the Bible and try to make you think that it's all prophecy as far as the future, but that's not necessarily true. And that's also, when you look at the book of Ezekiel and apply that same logic, then you realize that Ezekiel is talking about a specific region in the Middle East that had these issues going on and
Dude,
went through these trials.
I'm sorry.
Revelation.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's
right.
exactly
so
what that is.
So the whole thing is, though, is and what's interesting is that that's the one book that was put in at the end of everything, because it creates fear because of the unknown, because not everybody is a prophet, right? Not everybody can interpret. So if you want to think about it in one way, Masonry is trying to develop prophets. It's trying to develop people that can interpret meaning behind the words. And so our journey in life, really, as Masons, it should be to interpret meaning behind the words so that we can help the world, help enlighten the world. Because the rest of the world is closed off to the darkness, and it's our job to spread the light, right? Illumination. There's that word. It was bound to come up. It was bound to come.
And there's nothing evil or unchristian or ungodly about what you're suggesting, because reality follows certain rules, certain patterns. There's a certain cyclicality, if that's even a word, to the way everything happens. And a lot of these prophets you're talking about, it's a matter of just looking at what's happening and letting God or the universe speak to them. But a lot of it's like, okay, this is happening, and sure, I'm sure they did their tea leaves, or they did their cards, or went and fasted and did prayer, reflected on it, or anything. But a lot of it is, if you have the right mindset, if you're open, it doesn't matter what your medium is, because I mean, it could be like a lot of people like tarot now, or some people like Ouija boards. Some people they have some other kind of divination they like to do, like pendulums or crystals or fasting and prayer or whatever.
Well, yeah, insert ritual here, because the ritual is there to prepare your mind and spirit for the message. It's the same thing with us, with our opening and closing of our lodges, with the things that we teach people through ritual. It's all in order to prepare our minds and spirits to be able to receive the message. That's exactly what you're describing. And it doesn't matter. Like, you're right. Some people did it with tea leaves, chicken bones, whatever it takes for that person to prepare their mind and body to receive the message from God, then that's what it took.
And it didn't
Who are
matter what
we
they
to
called God.
who are we to call it a cult? Just because it doesn't follow in what mainstream says it should be, that's not up to us to decide. Now,
Yeah.
if they're hurting people, killing children, whatever, I'm not down with that. I just want to make that very clear in this message. I'm not down with sacrifice. But if you're smoking a little herb and taking little mushrooms to get closer to God, by all means do what makes you feel good, man.
Well, that's what all the old
It's
schools
not
did.
That's right. It's not for me to judge. Even even the even the oh golly, what's that movie with the kids? Young Guns. Even the young guns ate peyote to see their path, right?
So it's since you mentioned it, I mean, we were talking about like the different religions and having the different mediums to interpret the way things are happening, right? That was a huge medium. That was a huge component of all these
Oh yeah.
mystery schools. This idea of incense being carried around by like
Oh
a
yeah.
prepubescent boy swinging around. It
Yes.
wasn't always just
Yes.
made to smell nice, right? It might have smelled nice, but it
Yeah.
had other things
That's
burning
why
in
you would
there.
go like this, and yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't just to it wasn't just
Well,
to have the spirit roll over you. It was to roll into you and
roll
through
into the spirit,
you,
but
into you and through you.
but it would
Yes.
also like a lot of them wouldn't necessarily have something like that, but like ayahuasca, right? You
Right.
fast, so you have nothing on your stomach. And we're talking about like for the ritual, like not just like people that fly to South America and do it for
Right.
ritual,
Right.
but like you would fast and I mean there'd be nothing on your stomach, and not just ayahuasca, but there's other things like that, and you would
Yeah.
ingest something, and I mean
Yes.
it hits you hard and fast, and I mean and that took the rituals, whatever you did, and it took it to it
It heightened
was
it.
it was equivalent to put it on like VR goggles, right? Because it puts you in a different place. You saw things that weren't there. You heard things that weren't there. You heard things that were there, right? But
Right.
they were heightened and they were enhanced and distorted somewhat. It was probably scary, but also very spiritual at the same time.
Right. Right. Well, it's the ebb and flow. It's the good and evil. It's the balance that creates that equilibrium. So now that we've gone into this huge rabbit hole that only a fat bunny like we have at my house would fit in, let's get back on the track a little bit and get back to where this relates to Freemasonry. So very first and foremost, we've got the three pillars, and like I stated earlier, the one on the right side is wisdom, the one on the left side is strength, and the one in the middle is beauty. So we all know that King Solomon was the representative of wisdom. We know that Hiram, king of Tyre, was the representative of strength, and we know that Hiram Abiff, the widow's son, is the representative of beauty. Now, this also represents you as you're walking through the pillars as you first enter the lodge. You're standing there as the initiate. You represent that balance. You are that balance within the two pillars as you're walking into the lodge. Now, another thing that we also want to reference, since we are referencing Solomon, Hiram, and Hiram Abiff, is the wisdom portion represents the master of the lodge, the east. The strength portion represents the Hiram, king of Tyre, that's the west, and then the beauty represents the junior warden, which is the south.
And
If you've ever seen, go ahead.
not to derail this too much, but for anyone that is knowledgeable of the masters of lecture, this is how they are referred to towards the end. Talk about how
Yes.
Hiram Abiff strengthened Solomon. Talks about the wisdom of Solomon. How I'm sorry, by not Hiram Abiff, Hiram King of Tyre strengthened Solomon, and then of how Hiram Abiff beautified everything that was done. So this isn't just some connecting two dots kind of thing. It's very blatantly pointed out. Of course, the words are different. I'm not going to quote ritual on here, but it's very blatantly pointed out in the ritual that this is what they represent.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then on some of the pillars in some of the lodges, you'll see the globes on the top, the celestial and the terrestrial. And I've spoken it before that that's actually, it helps to remind you that when you pass through those pillars, you're walking from the terrestrial to the celestial. So that journey that you make through those pillars is you walking into the infinite from the finite. So you're basically traveling through Kabbalah as you head towards um, understanding or knowledge. Now, if you take the and I wanted to do this real quick because we're talking about knowledge. I wanted to make this reference. So if you start at the top of, can you put that tree of life back up for me?
Certainly.
And then that way I can explain to them what.
There we go.
Okay, so if when you're traveling through from infinite to finite, right? You're going from all knowing, or actually unknowing, to understanding, then to manifestation, and then to reality. So when you're passing down through there, so you're going to go from Keter to what is that, Chakma? I'm telling you, I'm not very good at this. And then
Chachma.
Chachma, yeah. And then you're going to go over to Bina, and then you'll go to Chesed, and then what is that? Din? I can't
Yeah.
see it. Okay. And I don't have all the words memorized. And then from there, it goes diagonal down to Tiferet, and then to um,
Nikech.
what is it? Nikech,
Yeah.
and then over to Hod, and then to Jasad, and then down to Malkut. So in that pattern, that's where you get the snake, the representative of the snake within Kabbalah. And what's interesting is when you read the book of Genesis and you read about the snake in the garden, the snake in the original translation was knowledge. The snake was the knowledge. And so that snake going through Kabbalah like that only makes sense because it's referenced in the original, in the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible is Torah, which is where everything is set up, all the rules and regulations of the faith. It's in there, and that's one of your first representations of the snake. And then also later on, you've got the snake represented with Moses when he takes his people out of Egypt and he throws his staff down, it becomes a snake and eats the snake of the Pharaoh. It's basically saying my knowledge is more powerful than your knowledge. My understanding of God is more powerful than your understanding of God. And so his God swallows up the other. That's kind of the representation that you see there in that one passage. That's something that I really liked about that. Now, to while we got this picture up before we take it back down, so you've got your 10 Sephiroth, and then you've got your mystic or magical or mystic pathways. And that's where you would see your different letters of the alphabet. There's 22 letters in Hebrew. There's 22 Hebrew letters, and there's 10 Sephiroth in the actual tree of life in Kabbalah, which represents 32. What's interesting is dot is a 33rd sphere that pops up, but dot represents the understanding of all the rest of them combined. So you really aren't ready for the knowledge of the 33rd degree until you understand all the rest of it and how it relates to each other in your personal journey. Interesting, huh?
That's very interesting. How about that?
You're welcome. So, all right. So now we can jump off of this. I want to minimize this because I want to get to one of my notes that I had earlier.
Sure. There we go.
There we go. So you have your wisdom and your strength. The wisdom is also tied in with mercy, and strength is severity, and then the beauty is the equilibrium, like we talked about before. That's also your positive and negative poles, right? Not necessarily in good or bad reference, but just positive and negative poles in life, which creates balance. The positive and negatives, the yin and yang, insert whatever here, and ultimately the goal is, because you are that middle pillar there, the goal is to be able to understand where you are in any one moment in time, and be able to identify the sphere and the path along that sphere to determine how close you are to equilibrium in your life or within whatever instance you're in. That's why they say that, because the tarot is a roadmap to Kabbalah. That's why they say that the tarot can answer certain questions if you lay out the roadmap properly. Then it can answer certain questions, because then you look at, okay, this is my problem and this is my problem, 1 and 2. So if it's going here and then here, then the next logical step is here. What brings it to equilibrium? That's my solution. It's not necessarily a prophetic, fortune teller type of thing. It's more of a, how do I find the solution to this problem kind of thing. I think that's a more realistic way of looking at tarot, and not looking at it as a fortune teller kind of hokey pokey thing, even though, there is talks of how to do that kind of stuff, but that's not what we're alluding to here.
Well,
so
you could do it with just a regular deck of playing cards. I've sat with people that have done that. So
well, yeah, that's because the playing cards are based off the tarot.
Well, that's true.
I mean, look at them. I mean, you got your king down to your jack, and then the 1 through 10 cards is the exact same in the tarot cards.
Yeah. You had spades or swords, diamonds or pinnacles. Trying to remember the other ones were, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's
which ones are the puppy feet? Okay, so that's great that you say that, because now people can say, oh, I always wondered where cards came from. Well, there you go. Now, so you can actually play poker with tarot if you want to. That'd be a fun poker night. see who can actually win and what they win with. That's what I'd like to see.
Your fortune says you're going to lose all your money.
Right, exactly. Okay, so now let's tie this into the Fellowcraft just a little. So in our journey from the infinite to the finite, that's the macro to the micro. But in our journey, we're going from the micro to the macro, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so our journey up the stairways are actually trying to take us to emanation. So if you look at the stairway of the Fellowcraft and you look at Kabbalah, so the top three spheres are considered absolute. That's emanation, as you said before. The middle three are the ones just below that, not including dot, because dot doesn't count. The middle three are Bria. That's creation. That's where emanation takes the all encompassing infinite, and then it turns into a thought, a thought of higher proportions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes from emanation to creation, because it was out of the word that the world and heavens and earth were created, right? That's it. It went from emanation to creation by thought, because words are nothing but thought in syllable form, right? Or it's pronunciated thought is what a word is. So you go from emanation to creation, and then underneath that is formation. That's Yetzirah. And then underneath that is Asaya, which is basically action. So it takes the ultimate, the creator, into creation, into manifestation or formation, into action. So those are the rungs of the ladder for Jacob's ladder.
Interesting.
Now, so if you start at the bottom, you're an EA. That's the material world. You're a material girl in a material world. You take that first step. Now, in formation, that's where you're a Fellowcraft. Because you have to, if you don't understand all the liberal arts and sciences, how are you going to understand how to manifest whatever you want in life, right? So we've already discussed this in a different show, that we're able to manifest anything we want in life if we have the tools to do it. But we have to have that understanding. So we first have to have that knowledge. So if we don't understand all the liberal arts and sciences and the math that goes behind that, how are we going to manifest any type of reality from our thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we move up the ladder one more rung up to the master mason. Don't fall asleep on me. It's not time.
I'm not. My contacts are messing with me.
Yeah. You need to edit that out, because it definitely looks like you're falling asleep on me. So now, as a master mason, you're into creation. You're into, that's where the designs are laid upon the trestle. So it goes from divine thought, into a plan of action, right? So you're designing that's where the trestle board is. That's where your sanctum sanctorum is. So now look at these three. So you're looking at the checker pavement down at the bottom. You're on the outside of King Solomon's temple. Then you move to the inside, and you're going up the stairway, the winding stairway, I should say. Mm-hmm. Why would it be winding? Have you ever seen a winding stairway?
I think it's symbolic. Whenever you hear like a winding road, it alludes to something
A
that's
journey.
it's a journey. It's difficult. It has
Or a serpent.
tests that you'll come across, or a serpent. Nice.
So so now we go from the staircase into the sanctum sanctorum, where everything happens, right? Now, where does that divine inspiration come from? From emanation, which is housed in the holies of holies, in the where the 10 commandments were laid, where the Spirit of God was thought to be, which is, come on, Justin, stay with me.
Sanctum sanctorum.
No. What's in the sanctum sanctorum? What did they carry across the desert? What did they carry? Do what?
The Ark of the Covenant.
Yes. Yes. So the ark was supposedly, what housed the Spirit of God. If you cracked open and saw the word of God in there, it would blind you, right? So nobody opened it. Who knew if there was just a couple of rocks in there, or if it was the 10 commandments? Because everybody was afraid to open it, because if they saw God, they would surely go blind, because if they spoke his name or its name, they would blow up. So
Can I share a quick interesting theory about that?
Please do. Please do.
It was observed by people that have studied ancient history that gods are always local to the people, right? They all had their different deities, and it was relative to the culture of the people there. Like some gods were stronger than others, but anyway, the theory was that the Ark of the Covenant actually did house God, and it actually, I say physical, but who knows what like God is, but it actually physically was the house for him to move from Egypt to where they settled, right?
Right. As long as they had the Ark of the Covenant with them, they would win any war, right?
Yeah. Now, I don't really think that you can contain God in a covenant or anything like that, but it's an interesting thought.
Right. So going back down the rungs real quick, so emanation, that's where you're one with God, in essence. You don't even know you're one with God, because you're all in with God. You're just all in all, right? Mm-hmm. You're in the all in all. Then go down into creation. That's, in Bria, that's where all thoughts take shape. Creation started in that era right there. And that's also where it kind of makes sense that, the old saying goes that you're not going to die until it's time, right? Until your mm-hmm. time. And people say that they did their work. They finish their work when they die.
Yeah.
So in that very moment is where, in that very moment of death, and that's where you also hear people talk about seeing the light and this and that, whether that's, emanations from your brain, the electricity in your brain, or what have you, who knows? But that's the very moment that you would understand creation. Death would be the very moment you would understand creation. So,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't want to go too off on a tangent, but I think death, and I'm not talking about like a near death experience. I'm talking about like actual death is when you're reunited with the Godhead, right, or whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, you understand, you see everything you've experienced, you understand a whole lot, and then when you come back, that's when you forget it again.
Right. Well, I don't even know if you're directly connected with the Godhead, in my opinion, because I think there's still energy to leave your body before you're completely connected with the Godhead. No, I do understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
But me personally, I think it takes time to do that, because it takes time for your total spirit to leave your body, because you've still got all kinds of energy in you until your body decomposes, right?
No, I agree, and that's kind of a concept of that. I didn't go like a whole lot of detail, but yeah, the longer you spend wherever this is, at the source or whatever you want to call it, before coming back, if you believe reincarnation, the longer you spend there, the more you start to remember about the other lives and things like, I guess, as that energy from Earth leaves
The
you, and you
transference,
spend more
right?
time reuniting with everything, with all, then you start getting more memories and everything like that. But also, to say the longer you spend there implies that there's a concept of time at that point, which,
Right, right.
but yeah,
Time is so human.
yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. I'm not sure that, I don't know. I don't think there's really, because time is a human construct, right? But I don't know. I don't know. I don't disagree, but I'm not sure that time is something, and maybe that's why I'm having a hard time, because no pun intended. But time as we understand it isn't as you would understand it in that existence, right? It's not to
Well,
say there's not some facet of it, but you're not like counting years or anything like that.
let's look at it this way, which is the next point I was going to make. So moving from formation to creation, right? From those two different sections of the ladder, right?
Mhm.
Formation in the Yetzirah, that's when your feelings are applied. So when you're moving from formation to creation, there's not a whole lot of feelings going on towards the earth. Right? Those feelings are fading fast because you're going into the light, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're as you transform into that, and you lose the feeling portion of the human intellect, then yeah, you definitely move into that space that you're talking about, to where you no longer recognize time, because I think time is what creates a lot of emotion.
Mhm.
And
I
the
th-
closer you get to God, the less you care about time. You lose track of time when the closer you are to God.
I think that's also why there's no sadness in the afterlife, because
Yeah.
once 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 you're gone, you realize there's no such thing as time, and we're all united, right? And so it's like
Yeah,
we
we're
still miss
all one
them.
with emanation. Yes.
Yeah, but from a point of true understanding, looking back, you're like that's I'll see them again soon, right? And really, we never have been apart anyway.
Right.
Even when we're sitting next to each other, we never have been apart. We've always been one. And so I think that's why they say there's no sadness in death. There's a sense of peace, because all the things that we worry about here don't apply anymore.
Right. They're out the window.
Yeah.
And that's why our journey is to become more closely attuned to God.
Mhm.
You know, we will find peace on this earth the closer we are to the afterlife.
It reminds me of, going back to the master's lecture again, but there's a part where it talks about, the inevitable when we all die, right? And lecture's not even my favorite degree. I don't know why I'm talking about it so much tonight, but talking about greeting death as instead of being afraid of it, greeting it as a kind messenger, because when you have gotten to the point like what we're talking about, you're not crying and like shaking and going into the next world, um with no grace, right? With no dignity, because you have led a reflective life, which is why I think this fear of the skull is really does more harm than good in Freemasonry, because a part of a healthy life, as crazy as it sounds, is reflecting on death, right?
Right.
And understanding the things that we're talking about. So when it does come, you're not terrified of this unknown. You understand that this is just something that, frankly, has always happened and that you have done before and will do many more times. It's just part of a cycle. It's no scarier than going from spring into summer or fall into winter. It's just part of everything.
Well, and along with that, even if we're talking about just this one life, as we move up the tree, up Jacob's ladder, the closer we get to God, the less interested we are in the mundane.
Mhm.
The less interested, and here's the kicker right here, the less interested we are in the struggle. The struggle is fueled by emotions. The struggle is what, now, granted, it does create meaning to our lives to some degree, but that struggle is also what prevents us. It's the love for the struggle that prevents us from being close to God.
Mhm.
If in my opinion, if you want to know what separates us from God, it was not this eternal damnation occurred from Adam of all people. No,
That guy,
that guy,
that guy.
that girl, it was that heathen Jezebel that was with him. It wasn't her either. It's us. It's our own love for the struggle. It's our own love for that chaos in life that separates us from God.
Mhm. We all like the
Peace and
tea, right? When that came around, the tea, we all like that.
you're right. I'll be
But
right back.
but
Yes,
if
I'm
you
listening.
really want to see if someone is a wise person, you look at them when there's drama going on, because they are the calm in the storm.
Yes,
They're unaffected, they are unbothered and uninvolved in the drama.
right.
Those are the wisest people. Everybody likes the
I,
tea. So I mean, I admit I was in there. I'm far from being wise, but
that's
uh,
for sure. Finally, people, you heard it here tonight. I finally got it out of it. I am definitely wiser than he
I'm
is.
editing that out. I'm gonna edit it out.
But yeah,
But but to your point, like the wisest people avoid drama. And
yeah,
not only do
absolutely.
they avoid it, drama has no interest in them, if that makes sense. They don't have to avoid it because drama does not come their way.
Well, what is peace and harmony?
Doing whatever you have to do to not make other people angry, even if it costs you your lodge. Is that
Oh,
how
hell no.
it
Hell no.
is?
Peace and harmony is equilibrium. Peace and harmony is, it seems like somewhere, maybe it was in the Monitor that I read one time, where it talks about being disinterested. Maybe, I don't know. Just call me silly. It might just be in the Monitor, and I think it came from Lightfoot's Monitor as well. But somewhere in there, it talks about being disinterested. Why would you want to be disinterested? You ready to move on?
Wow.
You tired of me patting myself on the back here?
Hey, it's your birthday.
It's my birthday. You can cry if I want you
Wow.
to. All right. So real quick though, because we really haven't touched on this a whole lot, just so people have an idea of what each one of these spheres kind of represents. Now we talked about the Godhead up at the top. That's considered the crown, right?
Mhm.
Peter is considered the crown. Um, the the first one that you would go to from there, Chokma, Chokma, Chokma. No, it's not Chalk Mountain.
Choctaw.
It's not Choctaw.
I
It's not Choctaw Casino. There is
I
no
just feel like
wisdom.
Sean's watching this episode and just cringing every time we say
Right.
anything.
We love you, Sean. We always have. We always will. As goofy as you are. So if you're going down from the crown, like I said earlier, you're taking a zigzag. It's like a serpent type maneuver that you're doing. So you go down from the crown and it goes down to wisdom, right? So right underneath God is wisdom. Right when you become wise, you become one with God and you don't remember any of it ever again. Isn't that convenient,
Mhm.
right? Have this mystical school that you just forget everything. Okay, so you go from wisdom down to Bina, which is understanding. It's kind of interesting how they make the masculine side wisdom and make the feminine side understanding, because it truly is that way within our just makeup of our intellect and our feelings in life in general too. And as we go, you'll see a lot more. I'm not going to point them out from this point on, but you'll see a lot more for instances. Okay, so from there it goes from understanding to kindness. Kindness is on that's chesed, kindness.
Just it, okay.
And yeah, that's kindness. And then it goes over to Gevura or Gevura,
From
which is
Chesed?
yeah. So chesed, it shoots across, straight across from chesed, from kindness. It shoots straight across to Gevura, which happens to be judgment.
Mine has
So
din straight across from Chesed. Oh, from Chesed, right? Going
yeah.
left.
Well, that may be another word for it,
Yeah, I was
another
going to say maybe it's just a
interpretation.
different translation or something.
So what's interesting though, so wisdom and understanding balance each other, right? They're two different kinds of intellect, right? And they balance each other out. So wisdom thinks with less of the heart and more with the mind. Understanding thinks more with the heart and less of the mind, and so they balance each other out. That's where your equilibrium comes. Now look down here at Chesed and Yavura or Dina, and you've got kindness and judgment. Again, on the masculine side, you got kindness. On the feminine side, you've got judgment. But there's your balance. There's your balance. There's your equilibrium. And out of that, right there, as part of that, that triad there, it's Teferet, which is beauty. That's the beauty sphere. That's the beauty Teferet is Teferet.
Mhm.
And that comes from kindness and judgment. So with good judgment and kindness, you really get the pureness of beauty manifested, right? And then it goes from there, from beauty. So it's going diagonal at this point, from judgment down to victory. Netzach.
Okay.
I'm not going to say what it really sounds like, but Netzach is which I'm probably mispronunciating, but that's victory, man. That's
You're doing
victory.
a great job.
Victory. Oh man, it's late, but I hope you guys enjoy this as you're listening to this, and I hope you're learning something for real.
Mhm.
I'm not making fun of God or Kabbalah. I love Kabbalah, and it is going to get us closer if we pay attention to what we're doing.
What did you say Tiferet was?
Tefra is beauty. Beauty.
Interesting.
Which is really the heart of that whole column right there. So the heart of the right column is wisdom. And the heart of the other column is strength, which really it could be in this next one. So we go from victory straight across to glory. Hud, glory. So if you think about it, glory is it's an earthly trait because it's down on the towards the bottom, right? So it's really attributed to the earth, and so glory in essence could be considered kinsman to or kinswoman um, to strength.
Hmm. Interesting.
So now and then you go down from there to Yesod, and that's foundation. So that's the foundation of all things is that lower triad, and then you drop down to kingdom, which is Malkut, um, which is where we are. That's us in action. Well, actually, that third triad down at the bottom, the foundation, victory, and glory. That's your that's your action right there.
Can I
Yeah,
beat a dead
1,
horse?
2, 3, 4. Yeah,
Can I beat a dead horse real quick?
go ahead.
So I would encourage anybody. I don't want to pull it up on here because I don't want to minimize this. I would encourage anyone to go to like Wikipedia and pull up the Tree of Life, and we're gonna look at this again together real quick. Because here, no.
It's funny how you ease it up.
Because you have here. I'm just gonna do this. Let's see if I can do this without.
Go right ahead.
You have Keter right here. See this flower,
Right,
and then you have Dat at the crown of her head.
right,
Beauty is this cross. But if you look on each side of her also, you have one, two, three, one, two,
right,
three. You said just at his foundation, sitting on this stone bench. But also you have the which is interesting is you have strength and beauty, but they have colors associated with them. So and I
well,
believe
there's
people that
colors.
told me
There's
this,
actually colors associated with every sphere in Kabbalah.
but you pointed out to me before, there's no every color, every design on this
Has a
deck
meaning.
has meaning. And it's no
Yes,
coincidence. So if you look at the Tree of Life, you got Keter at the top, and then you have three on each side, and you have the pillars associated with. And there's no coincidence that she has this sphere right here where that would
right.
be.
Well,
And
you
then
know what? You know who also has that sphere, don't you?
who's that?
The Egyptian goddess.
The chariot?
No, that sphere and crown that she's wearing.
The Egyptian goddess.
Yeah, that's
Are you talking about I guess you're not talking about tarot anymore?
no,
The
no.
goddess.
Yeah, I need to look it up. Osiris? No, that's not right.
Um
Hold on, I'll
It's not
find it. Dang it.
Osiris. It's who's Osiris's
Who-
mom?
That's
Yeah,
who I'm talking about.
Osiris's mom. I'll just pull it up real
Yeah,
quick.
you've got me looking up this. You've got me
Osiris's
looking up
mom.
this as well.
Nut.
No, it's not.
Is
It's
it
not the
sister?
mom.
Not the mama?
Not the
Isis.
mama. Isis. Yes, Isis. Do you see that crown on her head
Yeah, let me
on
pull it up.
Isis?
They don't all have it. Oh yeah, look at
Right,
this
but
one.
yeah, yeah.
See
Oh
that?
yeah.
Is
You
that
see
showing
it
up for
in a
you?
lot of them. I'm not seeing anything that
Oh,
you're
okay. I was
doing
like,
right
I didn't
now.
realize I was sharing. Here we go.
No, I just know what you're seeing.
Share this real quick. So there's Isis again.
Woo, looky there. That's Egyptian. That is not Hebrew. That's Egyptian, dang
That's
it.
interesting. Well,
And look
I
at where
mean,
her feet are
I was going to say they make a point of putting your feet on a solid
on a
foundation as opposed.
foundation.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Now, another cool thing that I like about this is the all the points where you're showing the different sephirot
Hmm.
in on that card.
Hmm.
Those are seeds.
Yeah, what plant is that? I was thinking pomegranate or something, but I don't think that's what they
Yeah,
are. They?
I don't think it is. It might be. If you look at that top one, it kind of does look like pomegranate because pomegranate seeds look like that, and the outside kind of looks like that, like a gourd with a like a little tit on it, a little teat.
Oh, it's embroidered with palm leaves and pomegranates,
Yeah, there you
which
go.
are palm leaves are associated with male and pomegranates are with female.
Yep. So, anyways, that's just
Growing on
kind
a
of cool
tree shaped
stuff.
like the tree of life. So,
Ooh, wait, looky there. You
Lord,
know,
yes.
you're able to add two and two together
There
without
you
even
go.
reading anything. But that's cool though, and that's a good that's a good representation of how you were able to take the words that I was saying and look at that card and apply that right there
Mhm.
and just boom, it, it,
Well,
it kicked off a light bulb.
well,
And
it's like
there's
when
no
you,
reason that every Mason out there can't do the exact same thing.
yeah, when you get into tarot, it's natural to say, I just go Google all the meanings, and you can do that. But at the same time, every website will say you need to look at these yourselves and kind of interpret
Yes,
how you
yes.
would. And so it's interesting. I was like, that's stupid. That didn't work for me. I stare at it, it doesn't mean anything. But as you talk and as you study, and we're talking about it, like the card's just calling out to me, right? And I'm looking at it, it's like, dude, it's all right there. The tree of life. Everything we're talking about is right there on that
Right.
card right now.
Yes. Well, and I heard it on a podcast one time, and it's called WTF the Kabbalah. I love it. It's such a funny interpretation. It's what the is Kabbalah. And these two kids, I say kids, they're like 30 years old, 32 years old, and they're very educated on this stuff, and they've read many books on it. And so they're interpreting this stuff as they go, and and it's kind of the same thing where as they're talking about it, it's just drawing pictures in your mind, and then all of a sudden they say, oh well, they say that if you lock a rabbi in prison with a set of tarot cards, he can map out the exact tree of life and everything with all the tarot cards and explain it all without ever having to read the Torah or anything, just by the symbolism itself.
That's cool.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool thinking about that. But
Kind of cool.
maybe a little bit off, but So we mentioned earlier about 32 degrees and 33rd degree and Kabbalah, which you know we kick off in Scottish Rite in the Scottish Rite we kick off Kabbalah at the very beginning in the fourth degree. We introduce the candidate to Kabbalah right off the bat because
Mhm.
it is the foundation of everything that we're talking about. And just like we've talked about being able to apply all these different mystery schools with uh, with the tree of life, the for that very reason, and I wouldn't say that's the only reason. I mean, the man was pretty dang educated, even though he did, uh, use a lot of what other people had wrote in morals and dogma and stuff like that. But the man was educated. He read a lot of books, but he was of the firm opinion that we are all connected. Every religion is connected through the mystery school. And I am too. I'm
Yeah.
sold, man. When I first went through the degrees, I really didn't understand this stuff at all.
Mhm.
And then I heard, Robert Park talk about it, and he just blew my mind. And I was lost still for another 3 or 4 years. And then finally it started just a reunion after reunion, and then studying each one of the degrees with my brothers from the Scottish Rite. And it finally started taking shape, and I finally started understanding to where I own a deck of tarot cards. I have books on Kabbalah. I have um, other books. I have to say I have a book on the way with That's Nag Hammadi, the Nag Hammadi scriptures,
Interesting.
which are all the lost scriptures that were found in
Cool.
Egypt.
That's cool.
Yes.
They're still
Yes.
getting into those things. They're coming up with new technology. Also, it's like a copper scroll that they couldn't open, but they can actually scan it inside now and see what it
Oh,
was
wow.
talking about. Yeah, so they're still adding to
Interesting.
that collection.
Yes.
I do want to say we don't know a lot about the mystery schools, right? Because they did a lot better job to keep their mouth shut than we do today. But we do know some details of some of the different mystery schools. And to your point, if you were to go back in time and sit in like the cult of Mithras or sit through the mystery schools in Egypt or something like that, you're going to see a lot of things like we're doing that in 2024. And so you're right. These things are still they're linked, and they have been linked for a very long time. You could say it's because Freemasonry borrowed heavily from other schools, or you could say it's because there's certain commonalities that start to present themselves when you're studying
Right.
and doing these things. I mean,
Right.
it's no coincidence. Like we're talking about the tree of life, and here I was showing the tarot. We're talking about Bakken, Boaz, and Jockin, right? It's no coincidence that you have Boaz and Jockin in your lodge, right?
Right.
So it all links together. I mean, if you have no interest in Freemasonry and you go home and spend every day studying tarot or spend every day studying Kabbalah, you're going to reach the same truths.
Right. Yes. And this is what we talked about for a long time, is that we have a lot of young men that are out there that have this knowledge just spoon fed to them through the internet. And we better sharpen ourselves up and be ready for these guys when they come in the door. Because, like I said earlier, when I was 20 years old, I really didn't get it. I could have pieced some things together, but I would have been fully loaded with a bunch of words I really didn't understand. And I would have held a big game of conversation. And I can tell you, we've got a lot of that coming in the doors.
Mm-hmm.
And not that these guys aren't intelligent. It's just that they're really they may not have the depth that some of us have because they don't have the mentors that some of us have, and they don't have the Robert Parks out there. They don't have the Justin Armand. They don't have the David Hills out there to help them through, or the Dave Bindles. I mean, they just don't have those guys out there, and so that's what they're looking for when they're coming in the door. And if we're not ready to be those mentors to them, then they're going to walk right back out completely disappointed in one of the most ancient schools of thought of all time. One, if not the most, it's not the most ancient, but it is it has the most longevity of all time,
Mm-hmm.
because we do build upon all the other ancient mystery schools, and we illuminate it. We are happy that people want to learn it and read it and understand it and engross themselves with it. That's that's what makes Freemasonry so special, that we need to hold on to and be ready to provide for other people as they're coming in.
Well said.
And I'm not saying that everybody's going to be like that either. I mean, I wasn't like that when I joined. Yeah,
Me either.
I thought National Treasure, dude. I loved it, and I loved the history, and I knew I had some kind of tie in the history, and I knew that my grandfather walked with clout, and and I wanted to have that same swagger. To be
Mine was
honest with you,
more League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We got Sean Connery, and he's sitting in that. I remember they
I
sitting in
like that.
this
Yes,
grand
I love
room and
that
it had
movie.
square compasses everywhere. And I was like,
Right?
man, I want to sit in a lodge like that one day.
Yes, and there are some like that. There are
Yeah,
some that are similar.
yeah.
Not so much in Texas. Well, we
No,
have a couple in Texas that are pretty dang cool.
yeah, we got some really
But
good, some big, good buildings.
oh yeah, especially in some of the Scottish Rite buildings, we have some really ornate rooms that would just blow your mind.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap this bad boy up, man. It's 11 o'clock, and I got star test tomorrow.
Okay.
I will abstain from final thoughts because it's your birthday. I want you to have as much time as you got.
Well, it's man, that's not fair. I have too many thoughts. The whole thing has been a final thought.
I think what we need to do is have a part two to this.
This has been a good discussion. It's been a lot better than that other one, wasn't it?
We caught ourselves a few times. Like, oh, we got to reel this
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might still
Well,
release that
and
just for members only, just so they have it. But
oh my gosh.
I think this one is a lot more polished.
Well, this
I lost you.
this, this my connection went bad.
Okay, you're
Are you
good now.
there?
Yeah.
My computer's probably trying to do an update. It always happens around the same time. Well, it's 11 o'clock. So we need to think about that next time that, 11 o'clock. I wonder if it happens at the exact same time next time.
I think so. I think they push out updates around the same time.
Yeah, it may be midnight Eastern time. So that may be it.
Yeah, because they like to do
So,
it at night while everyone's sleeping.
yep. They don't know me very well. Okay. So final thoughts. So today we've taken a pretty good, I wouldn't say a complete journey through Kabbalah, but we've taken a pretty dang deep journey into Kabbalah to help you understand what we're referencing when we're talking about Kabbalah. We are by no means scholars on this subject matter. However, I hope that you will be able to piece together some of the things that we've talked about with some of the things that you've come across and you've talked about with your mentors and what you've recognized in the Scottish Rite and in some cases the York Rite. That's one of the things I didn't mention earlier, and I would like to mention real quick before we go back to before we finish up these closing thoughts. So when I was talking earlier about the rungs of the ladder for Jacob's ladder,
Mm-hmm.
I only got up to the Master Mason's degree, and there's actually four levels to this. So emanation would be the Royal Arch Mason. That's really where it all ties in. That's your fourth rung to your ladder. So I didn't say that earlier, and I wanted to. I almost forgot to. In closing, though, I do want to say that just so that you know, Kabbalah is intended to bring you close to God and have a full awareness of God in your life in every moment in time. That's why the Jewish faith studies Kabbalah. That's why the rabbis study Kabbalah, because they're dedicating themselves to, that energy that I was talking about earlier, that when the light hit it, it broke all these particles together, broke all these particles apart. Well, the rabbi is actually trying to take those pieces, those particles, and put them back together in everything they do in every moment. Every thought they have, when they brush their teeth, they're doing it for God. When they walk to the bathroom, they're doing it for the glory of God. When they eat a piece of food, they recognize that it is filled with that energy, and that food is going to actually bless their body to create goodwill unto men. Yeah, it's all connected like that. That's what it is to really study and practice Kabbalah. What we're doing here is we're studying Kabbalah, and we're trying to understand this mystery we call life. For the Jewish religion, they really are trying to live Kabbalah when they get to that point. That's why they have to be prepared to a certain degree before they can do that. I made light of it earlier with all these rules and regulations and stuff like that. But that's why they're trying to be prepared so that when they are at that point, they're able to free themselves from all the things that bind them and commit every act toward being closer to God and emanating the light from those particles as they pick them up. That's what Kabbalah is to the Jewish faith, in my understanding. That's my understanding, and I'm pretty sure I'm factual on that. So I don't want anyone to walk away from this thinking that I made light of the faith or Kabbalah or anything that we're discussing. You know, we joke around with what we say and do because we want it to be fun. We want it to be, you know, to help you keep your eyes open. Unlike Justin Jones, who, you know, as the night grows on, his eyes get tighter and tighter together, and he's squinting at the screen. Oh, my eyes, my contacts are burning. Yeah, that's called sleepy. That's called millennial right there. That's what that is. It's past his bedtime. That's called responsibility with kids. That's responsibility with kids. That's why you can't be too young and study Kabbalah.
That's exactly why. Perpetual
You're too damn tired.
I was just thinking, it's like, man, I turned 40 last year, and I don't know how you. I feel like I have this time now.
Right. Well, I'm 52 today, and a lot of this stuff is just clicking. So, man, I'm super stoked that you and brothers your age or younger are already digging into this stuff, because that means you're just going to be 20 times of the man I am today when you're 52. You know, you're at my level now. So by the time you're my age, you're going to just exponentially be smarter than I am. Though I will never let you be smarter than I am as we go along. I will continue to teach you these things, grasshopper. But no, seriously though, I mean, that's the reality of where our Masonry is today. And that's the reality that our brothers my age and older need to recognize and need to embrace, that this is what we're dealing with. It's not a cocky thing from these guys or whatever, but they're already learning this stuff. Fortunately, there's mentors out there that I have that they get to have that are helping them learn this stuff. And so they're millennial ahead of us when it comes to information and knowledge. So, you know, we really need to step up our game. And Justin, it is going to be up to you when you're, 52. It's going to be up to you to be ready for the next guy that's your age that's going to be 10 times smarter than you are right now.
But you'll be looking at retirement around that point, so you'll have way more time.
Yeah, I'll have more time as I make myself available for different things.
Yeah.
No, I actually, if I make myself available for different things, it will probably be before retirement, so I can still afford it.
That's smart. And enjoy your retirement instead of stress out.
Right. No, actually, those kind of things, if we do this right, going from this point today forward, we're going to be okay. And you're going to have people in different positions going forward for the right reasons, and it's not going to be so hard. And the more we educate ourselves today, the easier it's going to be later. So, Justin, I'm basically just trying to pave the way and make it easier for me later on, so that when I am ready to retire and kick back, then it'll be a little bit easier for me to just enjoy Lodge and not have to feel like I have to fix something all the time.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
even though it's not really my job. Yeah. Even though it's not my job, but there's a certain duty and honor that comes with this thing. And that's another part of tonight's story, is that there comes a point when you realize that it is your duty to seek more light. And that's what we're talking about tonight, is seeking more light. And it is our duty to do that. it is our duty to seek that illumination that is only going to come from asking the hard questions. And then once we ask those hard questions, being able to listen for the right answers. Because that's the scary part. Sometimes you're afraid of what you're going to hear.
That's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell you, if I understood a lot of what I understand now, back when I was younger, I might have been, a serial killer or something like that. Who knows? Just kidding. Delete that part.
Hey, it's never too late to follow your dreams.
Right. Right. Who's a goal setter? but reality, in reality, I wasn't mature enough for this at that time. I'm barely mature enough for it now. And that's one of the points I want to get across to our listeners is that we have fun so that we can have fun. It's just for the enjoyment of it all. Mm-hmm. You can't be too serious all the time. It's that balance, it's that equilibrium, and that's what we're all seeking. And so when you find that imbalance in your lodge, be the other. Be the opposite side that's going to bring that harmony to your lodge. And no matter which side it is, if your lodge is oblivious, then maybe you need to help set things straight to get back in balance. Sometimes that's what's necessary. Mm-hmm. If your lodge is way too damn serious, maybe you need to be the guy to lighten it up and say, hey, let's go have a drink after.
Or if it's not serious enough.
Yeah.
The opposite. You gotta bring that balance.
Right. So let's not just talk it on this show. Let's be it. And that's what we're charging all of our listeners to do out there is to be the Masons that we need you to be, because the brothers that are coming in next, they're needing us to be those Masons. They need us to pave the road to make it easier for them to find that peace and harmony right off the bat instead of having to work for it. It's one thing to work for balance, right? There's got to be some resistance there to make it worthwhile, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be a continuous uphill battle. Okay. And that's our job. Now that we know better, we know better. So let's act better. Let's do better. Let's be better. Let's be all that we can be as men in a free society, and allowed to think whatever the heck we want to think is silly or stupid or smart or however it is. We should love each other, embrace each other, and try to help each other to get there.
Agreed. Agape.
So with all that being said, brothers, thank you for spending my birthday night with me. Thank you, Justin, for appeasing me by having this other discussion on.
No, we need to do another one. We need to do a part
Kabbalah. Yeah. We can bring more tarot into it. Yeah, we can bring more tarot into it next time. So, because we did just scratch the surface on some of that, but I'm glad that you did show that example, because it did help to illustrate that we're not just trying to sell you a bill of goods to get you to start secretly practicing witchcraft. Mm-hmm. We actually want you to learn what you're supposed to be learning, and it's all right there in degrees. If we had brothers talking about this with the Fellowcraft degree, you might not have to join all those dependent bodies to understand this stuff, right?
What this is like the Matrix analogy I spoke about at the expo. Red pill and blue pill, right? It's your choice, right? You can watch all this and be like, I'm happy my fish fries. Then take that blue pill, go back to your lodge. I mean, that's not Freemasonry, but you can go back and do that. Or you can take that other pill. But understand there's no going back. You can't. Once you start studying the esoteric stuff, you start going to lodge, you're like, oh, there's those pillars. They're on that card. We studied that Kabbalah. You start seeing these things, and you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. So,
and then you start talking to brothers in your lodge, and you realize you have to travel outside your lodge so that you can talk to people that.
I got to join Scottish Rite. Darn.
which we do have reunions coming up, so that you know, in May and June we got a lot of reunions coming up, and in July is uh June. Wait, October is the Dallas Scottish Rite, if I remember right.
This
Or
sounds
no,
about
that's Waco. Waco is, and Dallas is also that
it's around
in
that
that
same
time
time of
frame.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Because we were
then
about last year around then in
and
Dallas.
we were late in San Antonio. We're normally doing it in May, but we're doing it in June for our spring reunion. September is usually our fall reunion. Is it September or October? Either way, it'll be about the same time as normal. Um, I'll be in Arkansas for their Scottish Rite reunion next month, which is
Mhm.
exciting. I can't wait.
When is that? I'll try to go.
That's the 28th, I believe.
Okay, you can just send me the info later. It's no big deal.
Okay.
I was talking to Brad about it, but he couldn't remember 100% either.
Um, also, brothers, if y'all go on to Texas Freemasons and look for Jason Jenkins' latest post on the work that they did in the mine over in Kentucky, or no, in Missouri. They There's a brother that owns the oldest mine in Missouri, and it's decommissioned. But there's actually a lake down there that they still go and dive. But they actually opened it up and did a lodge in that mine this last weekend, and so it was probably one of the coolest things that happened in the U.S. last weekend, and nobody really knew about it until after the fact. So we need to keep up with these guys and watch them, because they're going to do it next year too. This was their first one. They're going to do it next year also. So next April, I would like to go to that. I'm planning on going to it if I can break free. But just so y'all know, they got together in a mine shaft, in a decommissioned mine shaft in Held Lodge, and they used to do it years and years ago. In fact, the brother that owns that mine shaft, he was raised in that mine. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah. But
that's
they've
cool.
got everybody and their mother. He said that they had over 100 people there in that mine shaft, going down with you know deep down into this mine shaft, opening up lodge. They had 2 layers of tilers going up the mine shaft.
Wow. So whenever they ask whose lodge it is, everyone says it's mine.
I set you up for it. I did it. It's my fault, guys. I'm sorry.
No, I keep
I'm
digging myself in a hole.
Oh, don't mind me.
All right, it's time to go.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
everybody.
So friends and brothers, thank you for sharing the time with us. Keep it between the points. And remember, the Fellowcraft degree was the last degree that we ever needed if we really wanted to learn this stuff.
Bum, bum, bum. I mean,
Bum,
look how
bum,
deep we got without
bum.
even talking about mattress, except for a few illusions, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
All
Later,
righty.
bro.
Y'all take care.